What's going on, beer lovers? Welcome to another episode. I'm Jeff.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Trey.
And today we are brewing a Hazy Northeastern style IPA. I'm super excited because this is one I haven't brewed before, and it's a completely different process than anything else I'm used to. I'm here with my friends because they're going to help me brew, we're going to learn together, and of course we're going to drink good beer. So if you guys are ready, let's get brewing. Let's have some beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
Alright guys, so we got a bunch of oats and grains. We got some dry malt extract, some wet malt extract, and a shit load of hops. We have Citra, we have Mosaic, we have Simcoe, and we have Galaxy. Most of this is going in dry hop, some of it is going into the boil. Alright guys, so we got the boil kettle up to temperature. It's at about 165 right now. Trey's got our bag of grains. We're going to drop this in and let it steep for about 30 minutes. Let's do it. Alright guys, so we finished steeping the grains in the oats. Now we have to sparge those grains, make sure we get as many of those sugars out as possible. So I'm going to have Matt pour some 170 degree water on top of the grain bag right now. Nice and slow. Okay, so the next step of the brewing process is going to be pouring in the malts. So we have a wet malt extract and a dry malt extract. I'm going to have Trey pour it in, and I'm going to have Matt stir it. So we heated up the container of the wet malt extract because it gets really thick and syrupy, so it sticks to the container. When you heat it up, it pours out a lot easier. Matt, go ahead and stir that up. Make sure you mix it in all nice. Now what we're going to do to make sure we get all the malts out of this is we are going to pour some hot water into this container, and that'll loosen up whatever malts are still stuck to the inside of that container. We want as many sugars as possible. It's going to make our beer taste better and give us a better ABV. Alright Trey, you want to show them the inside of that container? Boom! Clean as a whistle. Next step is dry malt.
Alright guys, so this is the part of the process where we add the dry malt extract. So as you can see, it looks very flowery. Let's just go ahead and dump it right in. Matt's going to continue to stir.
Nice and slow. You don't want it clumping. So far we got some work going. So Matt's stirring, and as you can see, it's got a beautiful color. It's going to be a nice Hazy Northeastern IPA. Okay, so we finished adding the malts. So now we're going to bring this up to a boil, and we'll start the hop additions right after that. So now that we have our wort up to a rolling boil, we're going to add some boiling hops and start our timer for 60 minutes. The boil is almost done. We have one more hop addition, but that's just going to be a couple minutes before boil out. At this point, I'm going to add a wort chiller into the wort. It's going to sanitize this, and we're going to use this to cool the wort down once we're all done. Now you want to make sure that these hoses aren't touching anything that's hot, otherwise they're going to melt and that's going to suck. So don't do that. We just have a couple minutes left of the boil, so now we're adding our finishing hops. It's about 4 ounces, so let's pour it in. Our boil's done, and we're just cooling down the wort. You can see where it's at right now. And this water's cooling down real fast, so it should only take about 10 or 15 minutes. We're cooling it down to about 80 degrees. We chilled the wort down to 80 degrees. The next step is to pour it into the fermenter. We're gonna stir it up to really oxidize it, get a lot of air in there. That's gonna enhance the aroma of the beer. And then we're gonna add more water to it so we get a 5-gallon batch out of it. We're also gonna measure the original gravity of the beer, so then by the end of this process, once we're ready for bottling, we can figure out what the ABV is. But first, let's pour this into the fermenter. Switch directions to, there you go, just like that. Alright guys, so I tested the original gravity. It measured out at a 1052, which is right in the ballpark of what we wanted. But we got some wort left to try, so we're all going to give it a taste, see what it's like. Sweet and hoppy, for sure. It's got a great bitter back end. Tastes like oats and grains. I mean, wort doesn't taste like beer. This is gonna turn into something different later on, but still really interesting to try before it does become beer. The next step is to pitch the yeast. The yeast is what's gonna turn this from wort into beer, so that's coming up right now. Alright, so for the yeast that we're using in this batch, it's going to be White Labs London Ale yeast. This was recommended by my brew supply shop. They said this is going to get the best flavor out of it. So here we go. Okay, so we pitched the yeast, we put the airlock on the fermenter. Now we just gotta sit and wait about a week and a half. You'll see me at that time, and we're gonna do some dry hopping. We're gonna add a ton of hops. You saw earlier, this thing's gonna be full of hop flavors. Thank you, Matt and Trey, for joining me today, and thanks for watching and brewing with us, and I'll see you in about a week. Alright, so it's officially been a week since our brew day, and today what we're doing is we're actually going to dry hop our beer. I have a combination of different hop varieties in here. Simcoe, Citra, Mosaic, and one of my favorites, Galaxy hops. I'm dropping this right into the fermenter so there's not much to show, and then I'm sealing it back up. In 7 more days, it's bottling time. See you then. Well, another week has now passed. It's time for us to bottle our beer. But first, we need bottles to put them in. So, you can always go to a brew supply shop and buy some fresh empty bottles, but that can get really expensive. So I want to show you guys what I do to get bottles for cheap or for free. Recycling bottles is the best way to save money on bottles for your beers. So I just take my old used beer bottles, I make sure that they're cleaned out as soon as I'm done with them so you don't get any nasty stuff inside, and then I use OxyClean. And basically what I do is I let these beer bottles with the labels soak in hot water in my sink for about an hour with some of the OxyClean, and it helps peel the labels right off. Now there's a few labels that are very hard to take off. This trick does not work. But for the most part, they do, and I can get quite a few bottles doing it this way. In fact, I don't think I've bought empty, brand new bottles in months. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in the sink, and then once this is done soaking and we get all the labels off, it's time to bottle the beer. So I took those empty bottles with all the labels and I put them in the sink here, They are soaking in water and that OxyClean solution. I mix that right in. That's gonna help peel those labels off. They're gonna sit here for about an hour, and then I take them out. The label should peel right off for the most part. Then I make sure I scrub off the adhesive residue that might still be on some of the bottles. After that, it's just time to sanitize and get the beer in there. Alright guys, so we finished removing the labels off all of our beer and sanitizing everything. Now before we get to bottling, we need to measure the final gravity of the beer. I already measured the final gravity and it's 1.012. So we're right around the 5.5 range. I would have liked the ABV to be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. Because to be honest with you, this thing smells freaking delicious. Can't wait to bottle it. So now it's time to siphon the beer from the fermenter into the bottling bucket. I already added the priming sugar into the bottling bucket, so now I'm just gonna siphon the beer right in, and then we can actually pour this into some bottles. Alright, so here comes my least favorite part of brewing, bottling. So here's the bottling process. I have cleaned and sanitized bottles that I'm going to fill with this beer, and I hooked a hose up to my bottling bucket, and at the end is called a bottling wand. This wand is able to release the beer without it leaking out constantly when you apply pressure to the bottom here. I'm going to use sanitized bottle caps and a bottle capper. You'll see me using those in just a second. So let's get started. Alright guys, so we managed to make about 43 bottles of this IPA. I'm super stoked on it. In a couple of weeks these should be carbonated and should be ready to actually drink. So I'll see you then and we'll do a taste test. Cheers. Okay guys, my bottles have been conditioning for 2 weeks now. I haven't gotten a chance to put labels on it. Hopefully by the time that this episode's done, I'll have a nice picture of what the label looks like in the finishing credits. But I'm with Justin today, and we're gonna crack these bad boys open and see how they taste. You ready, Justin?
Let's do it.
Let's have some beer.
Let's have some beer.
Okay, so first thing I wanna note about this beer is it's got the haziness. That thing, you cannot see through it at all.
Nope, can't see through it at all.
Yeah, super cloudy, super cloudy. Yeah, dig into that aroma. So if you guys remember, I dry hopped the shit out of this thing. I put probably 10 ounces of hops in there, all kinds of different varieties.
Yeah, you guys should smell this. It is... Oh, that's right, you can't.
I actually get a little bit of the malts off the nose too.
You get some malts, but it's all just tropical, fruity, paradisey goodness. It is the tropics in a glass. I'm done oogling and ogling. Now let's get down into this bad boy.
Cheers.
Cheers. You smell the malts, but it's a little bit lighter than you would think.
Yeah. I mean, it's not absent of malts. It's there, it's just not really heavy, which, to be honest, if you guys remember, when I measured the starting and finishing gravity, it ended around a 5.5 or a 6%. So it's kind of spot on to what I would have expected. Now, when it comes to the flavor of the beer, what are you getting out of this, Justin?
It is just tangerine and grapefruit and papaya and mango, and it's a fruit bowl in my mouth. That's probably not the term I should use. It's a fruit cup in my mouth. Okay, still not the term I want to use. It's a fruit stand in my mouth. There we go.
Anything in his mouth just doesn't sound right at all. But what I will say is I agree with you. Tons of fruit coming out of this thing. I'm really glad that I did use a bunch of different hop varieties. I feel like if I had just gone with one or two, it would have been kind of flat, you know? This offers a lot of complexity to it, and I don't think that there's one that overpowers the other. You're, like you said, it's a basket of fruit, you know? It's not a basket of pineapples and then a couple peaches, you know? But you're getting peach, you're getting pineapple, you're getting papaya, you're getting all those tropical flavors out of it. Now, for me, one thing that I was really, really happy with on this is I managed to achieve that West Coast style. At the very end, you get a nice, hoppy, bitter finish. It's slightly dank, slightly resinous, but it doesn't stick on your palate.
Yeah, you beat me to the punch. I was going to say that
Sorry.
there was a little bit of a bitter note right towards the end. But it's not overpowering, it's not overwhelming, but it's nice. It's a nice little, you know, kicker to know that it's there. And it's just so drinkable. I mean, it's evaporating before our eyes.
This is seriously probably my favorite beer that I've brewed so far. I mean, this beer style alone has kind of become a quick favorite of mine, but being able to achieve the flavor that I was going for, I'm so happy with it.
And the other thing I want, another little note, is about the carbonation. It is maybe a little more carbonated than you would think. I get a nice little twinge and a nice little twinkle across my tongue with the little bubbles of carbonation, and it feels nice.
Yeah, well, and it's not overly carbonated either.
No.
But a lot of those Northeastern style IPAs, you see people just dumping the cans in.
It's juice.
And yeah, it's because it's juice. It's nearly flat, and this actually bottle conditioned just so well. I'm so happy with it. This is something too, at the percentage that it finished at, you could have several of these and be really happy. I mean, all in all, I feel like I did a really good job with this one.
Yeah.
Pat myself on the back a little bit. Well, guys, that's going to do it. So I showed you from start to finish how to make a Northeastern style IPA. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If there's a different beer that you'd like to see me brew, let me know. I actually just got my first mash tun, and I'm currently brewing my first ever all-grain beer.
And let him know how many sours you want him to brew. That's what he really wants to do.
Actually, you know, summertime, it's been really hot in California. Maybe I'll brew a Saison or something.
Alright, so that'll do it for this episode, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time on Let's Have Some Beer. Cheers.